So first, we are going to define each advanced macro type. We're going to start with this subjective button. And I'll come here into Add Advanced Macro. We're going to start with Select Macros. Now, select macros allow users to choose one item from a predefined list. These are useful for selecting specific symptoms or categories from a list of options. A select macro, an example of a select macro is symptom changes. So this is our select macro. We have just the regular color chosen, although you can choose any of these colors for the macro to display. This is the text that's going to show the user when they're selecting from the options. So some doctors or some clinics prefer to put what are your symptom changes in here, but symptom changes. And this feature, I'll show you this one in a few minutes, but we have three options here. We have better, the same, and worse. The label is what's going to display on the button. The output text is what's going to populate into the note. So you can see that these are all lowercase. We also have some options here. We have separate with commas, and we have the ability to select a default. I do not recommend choosing this unless there is one option that you always want the output to be. You have the option to separate with commas, separate with line breaks, or break apart into sections. So I'm going to show you in the ChiroHD training network what this select macro looks like. So you have subjective one, you can see symptom changes, and I have better, the same, or worse. Now, since this is a select macro, this allows me to choose only one selection from the list. So I'm going to say better, okay? That is a select macro. So next, we're going to look at a multi-select macro. I'm going to use the chief complaints as an example for this. A multi-select macro has all of the same basics here. So we have the macro type, primary color, text to show user when selecting from options, and then we have separate with commas, and we also have the opportunity to select a default. And now I have all these options of what my chief complaints could be. So I'm going to select my pain scale, and then I'm going to select my chief complaints. So I'm going to say I have headache, I have neck pain, I have upper back pain, I have low back pain, my left hip hurts, my right hip hurts, my neck is radiating pain to my head, and I have low back pain radiating to both lower extremities. When I select that answer, you can see Jackie Jack presented today for their appointment and reported feeling better since the last visit. Jackie rated the pain to be a 1 on a scale of 0 to 10. The chief complaints were reported to be, and then I have each item that I selected here. So that is a multi-select macro. Next, I'm going to show you how to use the feature where you can enter options from a semicolon delimited list. So I'm going to put in a select macro. This is my example. And now I'm going to bring over the list that I made here. I have items separated by semicolons. I'm going to copy this list. Now let me move this out of the way. And I'm going to build those options. All I did was paste those options into this list, and I have my labels and my output text here. I can do the same with this. So if I have two lists, I need to add in some more information. I copied it, and I'm going to paste it in, and you have the same here. Now, something that I'd like to mention for select and multi-select macros is the label does not have to match the output text. So for example, if you want to have this label, this button output, the patient stated that their pain was a scale of 1. you can have a whole paragraph here, and you can even make this box bigger so you can see exactly what you want to write. And let's say, oh shoot, I didn't want to add in these by text, so I'm just gonna get rid of those. So you can change them, you can reorder them, and you can change the output text as you will. All right, now for narrative macros. Let's create one. I'm going to open this up here. I'm going to put in a narrative macro, add advanced macro, and then select narrative. This box, this narrative macro is going to open up a large text box for the user to input longer narrative descriptions. So if I put what happened there and I save that macro, and I'm going to refresh here, and I'm also going to refresh here so that it appears. Okay, I'm going to select my narrative macro, and this is what it looks like. And this provides an opportunity to type in a large body of text. Okay, next you have your input macro. I'm going to put add advanced macro. I'm going to select input, and how many times did it happen? Just going to put that in there. I'm going to put input here, save, and now we have our input macro here. And this just makes a smaller box. So I'm going to say it happened 5 times. I fell down 5 times. So that is the input macro. Now let's talk about data macros. Data macros pull over data relating to the patient. So for example, you can have it pull over the provider's full name, and this provider is pulled from whoever is logged in doing the note. Full name is the patient's full name. First name is the patient's first name, patient's last name. He, she, they, his, her, their, him, her, them, Mr., Miss, Ms., Mrs., MX. This is the appointment date on the calendar. This will pull over the current date and time, and this will pull over the patient's birth date. Now, the he, she, they, his, her, their, him, her, them, Mr., Ms., Mrs., MX. This comes directly from the gender in their patient profile. Next, let's talk about the random advanced macro. This will randomly select an option from a predefined list each time the macro is used. This is helpful for introducing variability, such as randomly selecting a statement from a list of wellness notes. And I'll show you what that looks like. So here I created a random example. So if I click on the macro, I have 5 random statements here. Random statement 1, random statement 2, random statement 3, random statement 4, and random statement 5. This is commonly used in wellness notes. A lot of times a clinic will have 5 different options and they will have the entire note populated here, and the system will just randomly select one in order to introduce variability. So I'm going to save this, going to refresh, and I'm going to come over here. Now if I select random, every single time it's going to select a random one. So you can see that it just selects a random one each time. And that one I probably should have it set up to replace current note so that when I select it, it replaces the previous random statement. Next, we have the number range macros. This allows users to choose a number within a specified range. This is effective for capturing numerical data like pain scale ratings within a predefined range. So for example, in our subjective, we have pain scale, and this one was actually created with a select macro, but a better option would be to choose number range and say 0 to 10, save that. Save, and then now when we go to our subjective settings in the location. Better. It'll have 0 to 10 here, and then I can, continue with the rest of the note. And you can see populated as 7, better, low back pain radiating to both lower extremities. Next is the spine macro. This takes the user to a visual spine where certain segments can be selected and populated into the note. This is effective for documenting which segments were adjusted. So for example, I'm just going to put in add advanced macro, spine, which segments were adjusted. Save that, save this. I can't emphasize enough, if you are not seeing a change that you made implement, just click that refresh button and 9 times out of 10 it'll work. This is what it looks like, so I'm going to say this, and it will populate the list here. Next, there is one macro that is not commonly used, this shortcut macro. This was designed to take the user directly to a patient's pregnancy information. I don't recommend using this as pregnancy information is now displayed directly on the SoapNote screen, and I'm fairly certain that this macro is actually going to be removed from the system soon, so I don't recommend using this one at this time. Next, we have a date picker. This is useful for documenting date of an accident, for example. If I save that and come over here, I can come over here and say it was August 1st, 2023. Select and it'll be populated. We also have a number pad. And if I come over here yet again and select the new macro that we created, it will just have all of the options available. And you can go back. There's a decimal, so 10.9. And it will populate the information. All right, I believe that those are all of our advanced macros. Let's just take a quick look and make sure we covered everything. Section start and section end are going to be utilized very soon. We're not going to go into it yet because those are, they are not released yet. We are currently working on breaking the SoapNote box into 4 boxes, one for S, one for O, one for A, one for P. But that is not implemented yet, and these 2 buttons will be directly involved in that change. There is one macro that we did not touch on yet, and that is Other Macro. This allows you to chain macro buttons together. We are going to have a completely separate video on macro chaining, as it can be used both here in the SoapNote macro builder as well as the patient subjectives builder. All right, now go ahead and dive in, start working on your macros. If you want to pop over to the video about macro chaining, you can check that out. But if you have any questions, please never hesitate to reach out via our chat widget. I know that SOAP macros can be a little overwhelming, but we're here to help.